Welcome back to Issues of Faith. We are talking with Father Joseph Breen about reforms in the Catholic Church. And as we went to break, you were talking about the internal form. Define that. What does that mean?
Form, F-O-R-U-M, a place of judgment. The main, perhaps, place of forms in a national would be the courthouse, where you make decisions. The external form refers to the annulment, the paperwork and so forth. The internal form refers to your conscience. And I remember when I was in Rome, and he, as I said, he told the priest there to get out and find those many, many Catholics who are in second and third marriages and bring them back to the church. If you don't use the external form, the annulment, use the internal form. All the hands went up and said, "What's the internal form?" He explained it to him what I was saying. You talk to people, you make sure their conscience is in harmony with the Lord, that they're in a good marriage, they're sorrowful for whatever may be weaknesses of the past, and so they're reconciled, they can come back and start receiving communion. Now when he explained it to them, the hands went back up. Why didn't they teach that in our seminaries? And it's unfortunate, and I think, I'm not being critical, but I think the bishops maybe need to reflect upon that decision. Earlier, the American bishops voted not to teach it in the seminaries.
And when would that have been when you say earlier? We're talking about...
I don't know for sure, maybe 25 or 30 years ago.
Okay.
But that's opinion. I just know what I'm saying. It is factual what I'm saying.
Right.
And that they said we won't teach it because the seminarians, if they know about the internal form, they probably never would use the external form because...
They wouldn't use something like an annulment.
Right.
It would be...
So therefore, they voted not to teach it in the American seminaries, and therefore it is something the lay people, very few, know anything about it. And that's one reason I'm sure Pope Francis brought it up in his Joy of Love, Amoris Laetitia. He mentions the internal form, but he talks about just what that is, in the sense that talk to these couples, help them to come to reconciled with their conscience. In other words, they're holy, they're trying to be the best they can be, then they should be welcomed back into the church. And that's one reason I'm on the show today, that hopefully so many of those fallen away Catholics should feel most welcome to come back to the church. Talk to a priest that they know, a priest that will listen and be helpful in this regard.
If they go to their church in another city, in Murfreesboro or any other place across the state or country, would the fact that the Pope has now put this in this document, would they know to change? Would they know that, okay, annulments are not...
Only if the priests in that parish and programs like this, otherwise they will not know of it. And the Pope, as I say, has encouraged on many occasions bishops and priests, get out and dialogue with the people, because the people, that's the church. And dialogue with the church, the laity and the priests, so that they can come to know what is really what the people believe. And he brings this out, sensus fidelium. He has been promoting that for quite a while since he's been a pope. Sensus fidelium is what the people believe. If the fidelium refers to the faithful people. Sensus is what they really believe. And we really need to work on that. Like, I believe that when the Pope spoke to the American bishops in Washington, I heard it was reported 3 times. He told the bishops to go back dialogue with the priests and the laity to find out what is the sense of fidelium. What has been happening is, many ways, the bishops will teach this, proclaim this to be a teaching of the church, but yet the sense of fidelium, what the people believe, is maybe just the opposite. For example, the church officially has been condemning artificial contraception, forbidden birth control.
Right.
And yet the great, great majority of Catholics believe it to be a part of responsible parenthood. They believe it to be an important part of keeping the marriage together and making it as great in love and fidelity as they can. So that's the challenge.
Well, how do you reconcile that? How does a Catholic reconcile that?
Well, hopefully they use their good judgment. They read and understand what that sensus fidelium. They understand what is meant by the internal form, and they make that decision within their conscience, and they can go to communion, be active in the church. But if they need a little bit of more confidence building, a little bit more understanding, then they're encouraged to find a priest sympathetic and knowledgeable and willing to discuss that.
On the other side, could the internal forum give license to Catholics to disregard respected teachings that keep the church together? I mean, could this internal forum be a license to disregard important teachings?
The internal form is the greatest form of judgment. You got to live with your conscience. You can't deceive yourself. And we're talking about an informed conscience. We're talking about people who really are seeking to know the truth in prayer, scripture reading, listening to religious sermons, and really trying to find out what is true, good, and holy. Then they got to follow that and follow their conscience. And Pope Francis would say that's the healthy way to live.
When it comes
But
to
as
this,
far as license to do other things, no, you can't deceive yourself. You can try to do that, but if you want to be physically and mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, you got to work hard to know what is right and wrong. In prayer, come to discover what is right and wrong in the eyes of the Lord.
what does this document say about same-sex marriage, homosexuality, those issues,
Well,
if anything?
It's rather revolutionary in the sense that it doesn't condemn homosexuality like the church has been doing over the past many years. As far as same-sex marriage, he really doesn't mention it. He really doesn't say hardly anything. He hopes that what he's doing is get the church, bishops, priests, laity, get them thinking and questioning and come to an understanding of what is the sense of fidelium. What is it that we need to believe about Jesus Christ and so forth? And for example, in Ireland, I believe it was last summer, the Irish bishops were very strongly against the same-sex bill that was being debated in the Congress or in their assembly. And they decided to have the people vote on it. And the bishops were very much opposed to it, saying how bad it was and so forth. They had the election. 70% of the people voted in favor of same-sex marriage.
So
that
it was
it
overwhelming.
was legal. Oh yeah, 70-30. And we hope that the bishops won't act, let time come to a better understanding, because if we come out and be very harsh and condemn it, I don't know how many more lay Catholics who are gay. We can't afford to lose anymore. We've lost most of them.
Now, we only have, our time goes so fast, about 2 minutes left, about maybe even a minute and a half. How radical would you say this Pope is, and what do you hope people take away from this? What do you want people to take away?
He is revolutionary. He is definitely a man that knows mercy, forgiveness, reconciliation. He also knows the hardships many married people have, the families and so forth. And he is saying, instead of applying a rule and saying they're out of the church or they're living in sin, let's speak with them, talk to them, and see if their conscience will be such that they will feel welcome back in the church. I've been always concerned with the attitude, the way we treated gay people. But I wasn't aware of a other group of people. Ruth Abler called me about 6 months ago. I'm a 79-year-old Catholic woman from Cincinnati. I feel like I'm not going to stay in my church anymore.
And you heard that over and over. Okay, we've run out of time.
Yeah.
Father Breen, thank you so much. It's so interesting to hear from you. Thank you all for watching Issues of Faith.
Please.